In recent history, there has been many athletes who have had heart complications, blood pressure issues, strokes, seizures, and so much more simply from only using performance enhancing drugs such as steroids and etc. In general, there's two classifications of performance enhancing drugs. The first one being restorative drugs. These are like your painkillers and your muscle relaxers. These medications help an athlete continue to play when they're hurt, causing their injury to end up being worse. The second type of performance enhancing drugs are ergogenic drugs. These are used to make an athlete perform better. So these are going to be your steroids, your human growth hormones, cocaine, amphetamines, things like that. Both of these can have negative side effects on the athlete. With the restorative, these can make your injury so much worse without you being able to tell, which can cause something like a minor sprain and a ligament in your knee to become a full-on tear, and you need surgery, which could end your career. Overall, steroids and other performance-enhancing drugs are extremely harmful to the sport, to the athlete, to the coaches, and to the athletes around people using them. They decrease integrity of your team and of you as an athlete. They cause mental issues, and they cause physical issues as well, which is the most obvious. One of the biggest things to consider when an athlete is using steroids or other performance-enhancing drugs is that not always do the side effects show up immediately. Sometimes it can be years after when the athlete begins to get side effects, and then they realize it's too late. There's nothing you can do about it years later. To elaborate on the side effects of performance-enhancing drugs, it can be something as little as growth stunting, acne, higher risk of hair loss or muscle aches, or it can be something as serious as liver tumor, abnormal enlargement of heart muscles, blood lipid problems that can create heart disease. And that's really not what you want as an athlete. That could end your career at some point. And to get such little satisfaction is not worth the long-term side effects that could end your career, or even heart disease can end your life. That's something that no athlete wants. Let alone if you're using steroids and you're injecting them, you get bruising on spot. I've seen people with bruises all up and down their arms and their legs simply from using steroids. And that's never good. You never want to have bruises all over your body. The different ways that steroids are used is obviously injection. That's the most known one. Usually, say you're using them for pain, you'll inject them into your knee or anything like that. If you're using them for muscle growth, you will put it in your bicep, your tricep. Other ways I've seen it been used is through pills and liquids that you can swallow. So there's injectables and swallowables. Performance-enhancing drugs are typically used for pain relief, prolonged activity, being able to continue your activity for longer than you should, and for growth and to become a better athlete, which is really unfair to other athletes. You should be able to put the same amount of work in that they did to be able to get to where you are. Next will be some interviews from some of my favorite athletes that I'm friends with and their thoughts. Okay, what's your name?
My name is Kendall Ford.
And what sport do you play?
I play basketball.
Okay, how long have you been playing?
I've been playing since I was like 4 or 5.
Okay, and in a week, how much time do you spend putting work in?
In a week, it's like, I would say probably around 15 hours.
Okay, and do you feel like in your future college career you'll ever have the temptation to use performance-enhancing drugs?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, how do you feel about other players using performance-enhancing drugs and being able to get to the position that you're at without having to put the work in?
It's very unfair because you're already in college, everybody's already in college, you made it, and it makes no sense to use drugs to get ahead. Like, it's just unfair to everybody else that's worked all their life to get, where we're at, for you to just you know, do that. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, what's your name?
My name is Jalen.
What sport do you play?
I play basketball.
How long have you been playing?
I've been playing since 9th grade year.
And how much work do you put in a week?
I'll say like about 20 hours.
Okay, do you ever feel like in your future college career or even after that, if you'll have the temptation to use performance enhancing drugs?
No.
Okay. How do you feel about players getting to the position that you're in, not because they put the work in, but because they use performance enhancing drugs?
I also feel like it's very unfair because when you put in the work, it becomes a very mental and physical thing to get through. So yeah, I feel like it's unfair.
Okay, what's your name and what sport do you play?
My name is Caitlin Reeves and I do powerlifting.
Okay, how many years have you been doing powerlifting? And in a week, about how many hours do you put into it?
I have been doing it for about 4 years and I'd say I put in at least 10 hours a week.
Okay, throughout your career participating in it and in your future, have you ever, or do you feel like you ever will, have the temptation to use performance enhancing drugs?
No, I personally won't because I think that whenever I accomplish certain goals that I like, certain goal markers in my career, I want to be proud that I did it on my own.
Okay, and lastly, knowing that you put in so much work for so long, how does it make you feel knowing that someone else can get to the point you have in so little of a time because they used performance enhancing drugs?
I think that it's really, really unfair because powerlifting is purely based off of how much you work out, your consistency, and your work ethic. Like, a lot of people are born with like the talent to, like play basketball really good without having to practice. Like, it comes to them naturally. But powerlifting is something that you can never really take a break from, because if you take a break, then you fall so far behind and you have to work more to get even further where you are.
Someone I've known has been on steroids. He's a young 18-year-old boy, and he's been on steroids for some years now. He has suffered from extremely high blood pressure. He's suffered from multiple strokes, months to months to months in a row. He's had more strokes than I can count. He's suffered from many seizures. This is a prime example of how it can affect your heart and your brain. He's also suffered from mental disorders. He has become okay with the fact that he knows that as long as he's on steroids, he probably won't make it past the age of 25. This is very hurting to see as someone's friend. When you're friends with someone and you see them talk about how they choose their physique and looking better over than their own life living past 25, it's heartbreaking to those around you. He has a child and he doesn't even have the want to be there for him anymore because he's become so dependent on steroids, knowing that it is harming him. He's in the hospital almost every 3 weeks because of steroids. And if he quit steroids, it would leave him out the hospital and he would be able to live a longer life. But as long as he's on them, he can't live longer. And he will continue to have strokes and seizures and heart problems and high blood pressure. His blood pressure gets to the point where it's over 140. That is extremely high for an 18-year-old boy. So from many articles that I've read and done research over, one stood out with me. In the article, Sport Motivation and Doping in Adolescents Athlete by Jerry Mudrock in October of 2018, the author continues to talk about how performance-enhancing drugs can bring so many health concerns to the table. Health issues including cardiovascular, neurological, and psychiatric disorders. This means heart disorders, brain disorders, and mental disorders. That's never something you want as an athlete. How would you feel if it was your child who was using performance-enhancing drugs and was having strokes and seizures? How would you feel if it was an athlete that you coached and was using performance enhancing drugs and you witnessed it firsthand? How would you feel if it was your husband or your wife and you were witnessing all of this firsthand? You were watching people die because of the use of steroids. It can't make anyone feel good. The use of performance enhancing drugs is an extremely real issue that athletes deal with. Whether it's college, high school, or professional sports, or even overseas, performance enhancing drugs is continuously a problem. It affects people's physical and mental health on the daily. So what I ask from you is that if you ever get the chance that you are in a city or state election, or anyone who may be an athlete or a coach, please, if you get the chance, vote to stick with the performance enhancing drug ban. While it is a ban technically right now, people are still getting away with it, and we just want to keep our athletes safe. And if you have an athlete in your family or a friend, it's a real thing. So we want to keep all of the athletes in our life safe, and all of the athletes that we love to watch safe too. And banning performance enhancing drugs is one of the best ways that we can do that.